Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, well, like previous episodes, if you haven't seen them or, been hiding under a rock lately, Outlaws of Thunder Junction is here. Spoiler season is rolling on. Let's jump into some amazing cards from it. So let's start things off with Pillage the Bog, and this is a design that I actually really like. And if you are a green player out there that loves to ramp, well, now you can just, well, be kind of obnoxious with this card. Just a little bit, okay? Here we go. A sorcery for Golgari colors, essentially. 2 mana. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is twice the number of lands you control. Put one of them into your hand, and the rest on your bottom of your library in a random order. Oh, why random? I mean, I understand why they did random, because it would be even more obnoxious, but we'll talk about that here in a second. But also, plot for 1 in Golgari colors, essentially, so 3 mana in total. So this is one of those plot cards that does cost more to actually plot it, but again, it's kind of a good thing to just be like, yeah, okay, I'll just plot this way. I got nothing else to do this turn for 3 mana. Keep it there, and then later on, when I've built up an absurd amount of lands in play, because, green is one of my colors, obviously, then I'll just get an absurd number of cards to look at the top of my library. Again, at the end of the day, this is basically like, kind of like, oh gosh, what's that one that is Delve and like look at the top 7, take 2. It's kind of like that, but like lower to the ground again, only costing 2 or maybe 3. But it has the potential to look at the top. I mean, if you're just casting this for 2 mana, obviously it's like look at top 4, you'll get 1. That's still pretty good. But look at the top, I don't know, 40 cards of your deck. So this is again where you got to be obnoxious again. If you are in, obviously you're in green, but like in a deck that really wants to ramp and ramp and ramp and get an absurd amount of lands into play, and you're like, oh, I got 20 lands in play. Cool. I guess I'll pay 2 mana. Oh, wait, no. Actually, I don't have to pay for this. I plotted it a long time ago, like 5 turns ago, because, it's only been turn 6 and I've got 20 lands in play because I'm a green player. And then I play this for free. Look at the top 40 cards in my library. Take my time figuring out what I want to do, because again, it's basically like a mini tutor in a way, but also pretty massive. Be able to look at the top, however many. Again, maybe a more realistic number is like 20, but still. All right, looking at a ton of cards, picking the best one of all of those, and putting the rest on the bottom of your library. Yes, it's a random order. Wizards has been doing random more often lately. More so because it's like, it would take a long time. Again, if you look at the top, even 20 cards in your library, and you picked one of them, you have 19 cards then to sort in whatever order you want, which could be relevant, might not be relevant, but like, there's an opportunity where it's like, you didn't have a lot of cards in your library, but you looked at basically all of them with this, and then you just sorted your entire library. That would take forever. So they took that out. Regardless, I think this is a spicy card. It's obviously for decks that are well versed in getting a ton of lands into play, which you're in green, so you're probably going to be able to do that. And it's a very cool card. It's kind of like, again, a mini tutor, and again, a mini potentially free tutor if you already paid that plot cost for it earlier. So very, very cool. Next up, Brimstone Roundup. Enchant for 1 in a red, or you can plot it for 1 extra mana, essentially. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 red mercenary, which has that mercenary text. Tap, +1/+0, activate on sorcery speed. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. If you've got a kind of spell slingery type deck where you're going to be casting a good amount of cards on not just your own turn, again, it says each turn, not just your own turn, opponent's turns too. That can actually give you a good amount of value throughout the game. Again, making a bunch of mercenaries. Obviously, if you're in like an Outlaws deck, I'm sure you have other plot cards in there too as well, which can help with casting multiple spells in a turn, at least on your turn, I should say, because sorcery speed, right? That can be pretty interesting. Next up, Red Rock Sentinel. Apparently this Sentinel likes to go jam out at Red Rock. Yeah. No. Okay, anyways. 2/4 artifact creature golem with defender for 3 mana. 2 tap, sacrifice a land, draw a card, create a treasure token. Turning your lands into card draw and treasures is not all that bad. Obviously, it's for very specific decks out there. It's not the most efficient thing ever, but like a defender deck might want to consider this in case they need some like card draw and treasure token production. Next up, Requisition Raid, a sorcery that has spree, a single white mana plus whatever else you want. 1, destroy target artifact. 1, destroy target enchantment. 1, put a counter on each creature target player controls. This card would probably see a good amount of play if it wasn't for one thing, and that is the text on it that is sorcery. This is a sorcery. If this was an instant speed card, it'd be kind of like Wear and Tear, but like maybe even better, actually. and actually obviously more applicable to more decks out there because it's in just regular white instead of like, Boros colors. Yeah, because it's a sorcery, this is more, in my opinion, like a limited card, because typically when it comes to Commander, you want to be able to respond at instant speed, and this, you can't. You can't just hold up mana for this, you have to utilize it on your turn. Obviously very flexible, quite nice. I mean, at the very least, I guess, if you have like a +1 counter strategy where you care about getting like counters on your creatures, like a Hamza kind of deck maybe, might be a good card to consider just because, like, yeah, on your turn, you probably want to get those counters on your creatures, which is good. Again, you technically could be very political with this, too, on each creature target player controls. So, like, I guess if someone has, like, a giant token army and you're like, hey, that player over there is a problem, and if we don't take them out right now, we're all going to lose. So, like, hey, I'll give you counters on all your creatures so they hit twice as hard, essentially, and go take out that player for me, and then we'll make a deal. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. It is a card more so probably for +1 counter strategies, I would say, in Commander versus ones that are like, yeah, removal. It's good flexible removal, but again, not being an instant makes it inflexible in that way. Next up, Scale Storm Summoner. A 3/3 human warlock for 3 mana in red. Whenever it attacks, create a 3/1 red dinosaur creature token if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. 4 or more, I should say. It's always the ironic thing with this, and I guess that kind of plays into like the mercenaries, because a mercenary could just pump this by 1 and meet that requirement, but it's like, oh, I'm just so short of it by 1. If you have any kind of an anthem in play or any way to pump this by 1, obviously it just meets it itself. But yes, obviously if you have any other creature in play that has 4 power, you will get there. What kind of a deck does this go in? Maybe like an attack trigger deck. So like Ishin could consider it if you've got a decent amount of power in that, obviously. Being able to double that up and get 2/3/1s is quite nice every single time you attack with this, so make sure you're considering that kind of a card. Also, thank you MTG Goldfish for all the translated versions of the cards, that you will see. Next up, Railway Brawler. Oh, here we go. Green gets the best things always, right? Anyways, a 5/5 Rhino Warrior that costs 5. Oh, wait, no. You could plot it. So for 1 less. So you get plotted for just 4 mana. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put X counters on it where X is its power. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what is that one elf mutant ooze dude? Costs 4 mana in Simic. Whenever another creature comes into play, it gets X counters on it where X is is it Biomancer or something? I can't remember what that card's called. Whatever it is, based on its power. Not the creature coming in's power, but the actual card I'm talking about's power. It's like a 2/4. So it gives them all 2 counters, unless you get more counters on that, or, gain it, get more power on it. Basically, this is potentially better, probably better, because, hey, whatever your creature is coming into play, it's doubly large, essentially. Absurdly large creatures, obviously ones that work well with counters, work even better with this, and if you have, like, not hardened scales, Branching Evolution or Doubling Season cards that double that up again, things get even more absurd. So like, this is already just like in a +1 counter strategy. This is already an amazing card because it's like, yeah, you typically want to get counters on your creatures in a strategy like that. And this is like, oh, you automatically get counters on your creatures. And people are like, oh, how many? Like 1? You're like, no, I had a 10/10 come into play and it gets 10 extra counters. Oh, wait, no, I have Branching Evolution. Twice that many. Yeah, absolutely crazy. And again, it's literally just you show this card to someone from 20 years ago, and they're like, oh, a 5/5 for 5 with reach and trample. Wow, that's the craziest thing of all time. And you're like, oh no, it basically costs 4, and you can cast it for free on a later turn. Oh, and by the way, it makes all your creatures massive. And they're like, what is happening? Magic is crazy in 20 years. Yes, it is. It is crazy in 20 years. So yeah, this Rhino Warrior is absolutely insane. Obviously great for Rhino decks too, and Warrior decks. Next up, Take for a Ride. Sorcery for 2 and a red. Take for a Ride has flash as long as you've committed a crime this turn. Gain control of target creature. Thank you, Wizards. Thank you. Until end of turn, untap that creature, gains haste of turn. I want to say thank you, Wizards, because it seems like lately they've been limiting things in certain ways. Like, again, like your Oblivion Ring type cards are like only on your opponent's things because they don't want you creating loops with that because Wizards is no fun in that way sometimes. And then with like threaten effects, they're like in a creature an opponent controls because we wouldn't want you to just be able to untap your own creature and use this in like a Cranko deck. Yeah, give us the flexibility to use it in either, please. Please. Thank you. So yeah, this one is basically just threaten, but better, because if you've committed a crime on this turn, it does have flash. So essentially, on an opponent's turn, if you target them, target anything they control, or target any card in a graveyard, congratulations, in their graveyards, I guess. Congratulations, you committed a crime. And your prize is you can cast this at instant speed, which makes it even better, obviously, being able to steal something on an opponent's turn. So, like, if someone else is about to attack you with a creature, you're like, let me go take that other creature and block with it and take out both creatures. Yay. So yeah, take for a ride. When you can commit a crime with it, even better. If not just as a base level threat. And there are decks that want to use that. Again, like a Krenko deck kind of just wants, depending on how you build it, but the ones that I build Krenko decks for are like, yeah, you just want every single threat and effect that you can, because 3 mana to untap your commander is absurdly powerful. When you're like, okay, 3 mana untap my commander. All right, tap it. I made 20 goblins. Cool. 3 more mana, untap my commander. Cool, I tapped it. Oh, I made 40 more goblins. Cool. Yeah, that's worth the 3 mana. So yeah, red untap effects. There's not too many of them out there, but when Wizards isn't a meanie and lets you use threat effects on your own creatures, that's when it's good. Moving on. Treasure Dredger. That's hard to say. A 2/2 human rogue for 2 mana in black. Pay 1 tap, pay 1 life, create a treasure token. Okay. Yeah, that's all I got to say about this one. Okay, you're utilizing temporary mana, or you're utilizing mana right now for temporary mana later. And a little bit of life, but who cares about life in Commander? You're at 40. You've got plenty of life to use, okay? Live on the edge every now and then. Magebane Lizard. This one's actually quite spicy. A 1/4 lizard that costs 2 mana in red. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Magebane Lizard deals damage to that player equal to the number of non-creature spells they've cast this turn. It's kind of like the exact opposite of like Aetherflux Reservoir in a way. I mean, more specific, obviously. This is for any player, including yourself, so be careful with that, casting non-creature spells. And then all of a sudden, the more and more that you cast, the more that this pings you. So that's quite fun. Yeah, basically, if someone's trying to storm off or do crazy things, like, you know, I don't know who would ever build, like, you know, Artifact Storm Joyra, Mitch. But yeah, if you build those kinds of decks, this is going to punish you, and you need to deal with this before you actually try to storm off and do crazy things. Again, it is cast, so that doesn't count copy spells like, you know, with Storm. I do say Storm, but I mean like more like spell slinging. You can guess with Artifact Storm, it's not really storming either for the most part. There's like a couple Storm cards in there, but like mostly it's like bouncing artifacts, recasting them, bouncing them, recasting them. Again, that does count non-creatures, not just in sorceries. Any non-creature spell is going to punish players for playing a lot in a single turn. So yeah, this can be quite good. Obviously, even better if you have like damage doublers, damage triplers. This could be very, very good in a group slug type strategy. It's looking to just put everyone's life total down to nothing very quickly. And if you can get this infect, that could be quite fun as well, at least for you. In fact, also like any kind of like whenever this deals damage to an opponent kind of things, keep that in mind too. A very cool card. And then next up, I believe this one was in a leak previously, so let me just reiterate really quick. A 0/5 crab for 2 mana in blue, pay 1 in blue, gets +2/- until end of turn. At the beginning of your end step, you haven't cast a spell from your hand this turn. Draw a card, discard a card. I mean, the only kind of a deck that really might want this is one that is actively, like really wanting to just play on an opponent's turns. Like if you're just like blue go, essentially, like island go spells, or island go spells. If you're a blue deck that has island go type, you know, interactions, you're just like, play an island, pass turn. On your turns, I'm going to be doing things. Then maybe you could consider something like this because, yeah, I mean, like, a free looting effect each turn is nice with, like, a little blocker on it. So, are you really going to utilize that ability to +2/-2? Probably not. It's more of a limited card in that way, but, yeah, I mean, repeatable, you know, looting is not a bad thing. Next up, Geared Mirror of the Wilds. Okay, another leak that I kind of was hoping wasn't real, but kind of knew it was real and all the other ones are real too, and okay, this is broken. I'm just going to say it right here now. This is broken. And if you're playing this at my table, I'm going to convince everyone to come after you. Unless Urza's sitting over there, and Shalai and Halar is sitting over there. Then I've got to come after all of you. Because those are broken commanders. A 3/3 human shaman with haste that costs 3 mana in Naya. Non-token creatures you control have tap. Create a token, copy your target. Token that you control that into the battle for this turn. You could have limited this just a little bit with just a little bit. You know, I complain about you not limiting other things. It's like, that's kind of the weird thing about Wizards these days. It's like, they super hyper limit certain things. They're like, oh, triggers only once each turn. And it's like, that doesn't need to have that. Active only sorcery speed for mercenaries, because that would just be mean if you could combat trick these. That's also limiting too much. This is like, no limits at all. Wow. Oh my goodness. Every single one of your non-token creatures now is kind of like Kiki Jiki, essentially. Basically. I mean, you can't just create tokens, copy, like anything on there, but like any token that came into play under your control. Actually, yeah, you control, so I made sure. That you control, you can now just copy with your entire army of non-token creatures. So let's say you have 7 non-token creatures in play, and you make a single treasure token with any other effect. You just tap those, and congratulations, you have 7 more treasures, which also, of course, combos with certain things, obviously. But that's like the base level again, because they could have said target like token, like non-creature token, or the other way, like creature token. Like, it could have been one or the other. Having it as both, again, lets you just do crazy things with like treasures and other kinds of non-creature artifacts, non-creature tokens. But it's even more broken with things like, and more easily broken with, what do you call them, essentially? Like a Village Bell Ringer type card, okay? And there's quite a few of those. There's quite a few of those, actually, in this color combination. Ones that either untap your entire team or just untap one creature. It doesn't matter. If you just make one token copy of those, which you are in red, you've got ways to make temporary tokens. Doesn't matter if they're temporary. Make a temporary creature token with one of many, many, many things out there, like Twin Flame, whatever those are, okay? Anyways, those kinds of cards, all of a sudden, oh, okay, cool, I made a token copy of my Village Bell Ringer. Oh, I'll tap this other creature. Actually, you just tap Girid. Anyways, that works too. Tap Girid. Oh, okay, cool, Village Bell Ringer comes into play. All right, cool, I made no token copy of it. Untaps my creatures, I tap, do it again, tap, do it again, tap, do it again, tap, do it again. Infinite tokens. Very easy. Also, if you have any creatures in play that are mana dorks, cool, you have infinite mana now too. Do you have another tap effect? Cool, you get that as well. You have one Tim in play, cool, infinite damage. And I say infinite, and yes, rules lawyers out there, technically not infinite. Okay, a trillion, whatever it is. Yeah, this is absurd. This is busted. This is broken. This is way too easy. Way too easy, Wizards. It's kind of, again, like the thing that these days where I'm like, please just limit things somewhat when they need to be limited like this, and then don't limit things that don't need to be limited at all. Okay? This is the balance to it. This is not balanced. Gross. Anyways, something that is very balanced, in my opinion, is a really, really cool design, a very spicy design, and I absolutely love it. Ty Joaquin, is that how you say that? I apologize if this is my first time seeing the name. Really, perfect shot, a 2/3 human mercenary for 2 mana and Boros. Here we go. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to a creature equal to that creature's toughness, draw a card. Oh my goodness. So incredibly specific. So specific. I love this. Absolutely amazing specific. Every now and then, Wizards comes up with a design that's just like chef's kiss. Just incredible. And this is it right here. This is like, you know what? We've done, like, hey, like any amount of damage takes the creature out. We just did that, essentially, right? We just did a commando. It's like, oh, your spells have death touch. Ha ha ha. It's like, that's pretty crazy. We've also done, hey, like trample spells where it's like, if you do excess damage, that's good too. Like, oh, that's interesting. This is like, no. Exacxes. Oh, okay. That's a pretty interesting thread, essentially, right there. You just gotta like thread the needle, is what I really meant. That's pretty interesting, like thread the needle proposition right there, where you're like, I need to get to the exact amount. If I get to the exact amount, I get absurd value. I get to draw a card again for every single time one of my sources deals non-combat damage to a creature equal to the toughness. I have to thread that needle, but I get a lot of value out of it, and I love that. Also, you can kind of fudge things a little bit. Pay X, tap, make source you control, deal to non-combat damage to a partner player. This turn deals that much damage plus X instead. So you can kind of adjust at least one time with that. If you can untap this, you can do multiple times, obviously. But you can adjust to make sure that you make that Exacxes. That being said, you can also say, oh, I pinged an opponent for 1 with my Tim. Huh. They're at 10 life. I've got 10 mana. Or 9 mana, I guess you really need. Oh, let's just deal an extra 9 damage to them. They're gone. So yeah, this is also kind of a nice, fun way where this can also be a finisher too. And obviously, if you have infinite mana, congratulations. You can just take out an opponent with any amount of damage that's dealt to them, essentially. That being said, yeah, one thing that is not limiting on this, and you need to keep in mind as well, I'm just going to mention this once, not bringing up any cards on it, but hey, source you control deals non-combat damage to a creature. Does not say creature an opponent controls. So if you're taking out your own creatures, essentially, with Exacxes, you can draw a lot of cards. So like if you secure the waste and you're like, hey, I've got a bunch of 1/1s. I've got this one spell that deals 1 damage to every creature on the board. Boop. I just drew 10 cards or whatever because I had 10 creatures that got taken out. Also, my opponents have those too. They get taken out as well. So this kind of commander where you sometimes want some flexible spells that can deal certain amounts of damage, or just like yeah, I mean, assume that someone's going to have some 1/1, someone will have some 2/2s, whatever. Just have spells at different levels where you can just draw, again, an absurd amount of cards potentially for a limited amount of mana investment. I love this commander. Let's dig into some cards that work really well with it. If you're interested in these cards, interested in this commander, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. Thank you, Wizards, for another amazing Boros commander. Thank you for doing that. Stop doing crazy Simic things where it just land into the battlefield, draw a card. Thank you. So, first up in the budget buys, cards that are less than $1. Cards are within my budget, even. Tectonic Hazard, a very spicy card. Sorcery for a single red mana, 1 damage to each opponent, each creature they control. So again, like literally late game, this can be a finisher for you. We're like, I hit my opponent for 1. I've got a lot of mana. They don't have a lot of life. Cool. Use my commander to take them out. That being said, though, again, 1 damage to each creature they control. This is a great way to say, yeah, I don't really want to take out my own creatures with this kind of a build. So I'm just going to be like, hey, that player over there is playing tokens and has a bunch of 1/1 vampires. Cool. I'll spend 1 mana and I'll take out all your army and I will draw 10 cards for 1 mana. Lovely. I guess with this commander, you kind of need to be careful where you're like, at a certain point, you might want to just not draw any more cards. So be careful with that. Next up, Mizium Mortars, a flexible card that in it is, hey, 4 damage to our creature on control. So for 2 mana, it's like, okay, 2 mana, 2 mana, take something out. Again, if something has exactly 4, you probably want like different like base levels. You want like different amounts of cards at different levels anyways. If 4 damage to 1 creature, it's exact siege, you get to draw a card. Congratulations, you have a cantrip now. That's great. Or overload this for 6 mana, and again, every single creature you don't control takes 4 damage. If that's exact siege with a couple creatures, congratulations, you just wiped out a good amount of creatures and drew a good amount of cards with this as well. Also at 2 mana, though, like a Pyroclasm, which again, it's a card that can be useful in like other formats, but in Commander, it's like, typically you'll get some things, right? But with this, it's like, oh no, you can get some things. And even if you say just take out 2 creatures, that's well worth it, right? Because it's 2 damage each creature, draw 2 cards for 2 mana. That's amazing. That being said, it also keeps your commander alive if you are concerned about that. We'll talk about some other ways to help here in a bit. But yes, it deals damage to each creature. So if you make a bunch of 2/2s yourself, you're probably fine with taking those out as well because you can turn them into card draw as well. And also if you're playing against an opponent who, again, has a good amount of 2/2s in play, like zombie armies and that kind of stuff. They're like, haha, I will defeat you. I just made 13 zombies with my spell, and then I recast it from my graveyard and made 13 more. Aha, I have 26 zombies. And I'm like, 2 mana Pyroclasm. I'll take out all your zombies. No! And I'll draw 26 cards for 2 mana. Super no! Lovely. Next up, Smash Dust. Again, I think flexible cards are going to be the way to go with this kind of a commander because there's going to be sometimes where, like, yeah, you're like 1 damage spell won't take out anything unless you're like building around your own creatures getting taken out potentially too. But you want to make sure you have some flexibility to it. Choose 1 destroy target artifact, destroy target creature defender, or it deals 1 damage each creature opponents control. So again, you can at least destroy an artifact. I mean, I guess technically if you're playing against like an opponent's like defender deck, then sure. I always forget, like I'm about to say Ricksmithies, but it's Arcades. No. Is Arcades? Which one's the one with the wall? Defender, dragon. Anyways, 1 damage each creature opponents control. Arcades strategist, doubt it. Anyways. So yes, you still have the option of, though, again, if there's a bunch of 1/1s in play, congratulations. You just wipe them out for 2 mana and you draw a ton of cards. Starstorm, here you go. These are the kinds of cards that you really want to consider, though, because they are flexible. Instant for X red, X damage each creature, or cycle away if you don't need it. Cycling away is nice to just, like, draw 1 card, but, again, with this commander, you're like, oh, hey, at the very least, I can take creatures out with it. And probably draw more than 1 card. So, like, even if it's like, oh, I put 2 mana in it to take out the 2/2s, or, creature with 2 toughness, cool, I'll do that as well. So, yeah, this is flexible. Whatever the most creatures are out there that share a toughness that you want to take out, do that, essentially. Next up, Anger of the Gods, 3 damage each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way, would die this turn, exile instead, so that's also quite nice to do that. But also, again, keep in mind that that can take out your commander, so you kind of want to make sure you protect your commander a little bit, okay? Into the Fire. 2 damage each creature, planeswalker, and battle. So again, it does have that option, but also choose 1. You can choose something else. Put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards plus 1. So again, it is flexible. It's not just a dead card when there's no creatures in play that don't have that have toughness 2. Essentially, if there's no creatures that are toughness 2, and you're like, I can't take anything out because I don't have Exacxes. Sure, then just say, you know what, let's get rid of my hand, try to get other things that might help me more. Fire Confluence is very flexible. Choose 3 and choose the same more than 1 once. 1 damage each creature. 2 damage each opponent, destroy target artifact. So again, you can deal 1 or 2 or 3 damage each creature, depending on how Exacxy you want to be, or destroy some artifacts, hit some opponents in the face. You love it. Next up, Curse of Conformity. There's some other direction you can go with this deck where you can kind of like, I'll just get everything very specifically at a certain amount of damage. Like if I can utilize the Curse Conformity on an opponent, enchant player, not let your creature enchant player controls, have base power of 3/3, lose all creature types. So cool. Just being able to say, hey, opponent over there who's got a zombie tribal deck. I mean, it's quite funny with this card on tribal decks because they're like, oh, they need their creature types, though. I don't get my benefits. Ah! But yeah, being able to put this on an opponent's creatures, or an opponent, I should say, and their creatures come 3/3s, all of a sudden, unless they have any anthems or any +1 counters or whatever, which they typically don't for most decks out there, then you're like, okay, all your creatures are 3/3s. Every single one of my board wipes that is at 3 is going to wipe out your entire army and draw me a card for each creature you control every single time. Harmonious Archon is actually even better because it says non-Archon creatures have base power time as 3/3. It's also a 4/5 flyer. That is an Archon itself, and enters battlefield, you make 2 1/1s, which are basically 3/3s, right? Essentially. So this, I love this card. This is a very spicy card. It says everyone's creatures are the exact same, except for like my Archon. No one else is running Archons. Okay, like no one. No one is running Archons. I know I'm going to get comments below like, but one of my favorite cards is an Archon. Congratulations. Then you are running an Archon. But the vast majority of creatures out there are not Archons. And yes, changelings are too. Anyways, Archons. So essentially, every single creature on the board is going to be a 3/3. Knowing that, you can again just say, oh, I cast my 3-mana Wrath. Cool. Anger of the Gods. Did I just say that again? Because it exiles instead. So that wouldn't count actually. Right? Because it dealt. And take out that one. Do something else at 3 damage, right? Anyways. Being able to deal 3 damage each creature then would be Xaxes, and you'd be like, okay, every single time I wipe the board, I'm dealing Xaxes to basically every creature out there, which is not killing my Archon. You need something else to protect your commander too, so keep that in mind. But yes, being able to say, oh, okay, every time I do that, I just draw an absurd amount of cards, because it's basically like Decree of Pain? Whichever one takes all the creatures and draws cards, it's basically that again and again and again. Okay, speaking of protecting your commander though, a quarter shield. Something as simple as this can be amazing with this commander. +0, +3 has vigilance. Put this on your commander. Your commander is then safe from every one of your board wipes that is 5 damage or less. Because again, your commander would have 6 toughness. So yeah, being able to just add this or like a Slagworm armor, I think is not technically budget friendly for me, but still a very good card. Being able to get a lot of toughness on your commander is usually enough to just save it in many situations. If not, Tragic Legion's Edge is another example. Prevent non-combat damage to be dealt to other creatures you control. Gains first strike until turn. Haste and Mentor. That's nice, but like the important part here is non-combat damage is prevented to other creatures you control. Unfortunately, not Tragic itself, so keep that in mind. It's kind of like a one-off effect unless you can actually protect this one too. The Wanderer, not a one-off effect. Prevent non-combat damage to be dealt to you and other permanents you control. -2 exile target creature power 4 or greater. So again, if you keep this in play, you can just now utilize your damage-based board wipes to take out your opponent's creatures while yours are fine. Again, there's kind of a balance to that because again, if you want to build your deck where you're like, okay, I want to make a bunch of creatures and I want to take those out so I can actually just draw cards, because I can like, if I just build all 1 damage, essentially removal spells, and then I just build a bunch of ways to make a bunch of 1/1s, I can also draw an absurd amount of cards with this. So there's some different directions you can go. Ironically, Blessed Sanctuary is kind of like both. Enchantment for 5 mana. Per all non-combat damage to be dealt to you and creatures you control. So again, a way to say, hey, my commander, all my creatures are fine no matter what board wipes I'm casting in red damage-based ones, I mean. Whenever a non-token creature is involved in your control, though, you make a 2/2 unicorn. So again, this one kind of goes the other way, where it's like, also, here's some 2/2s. So I guess if this ever got dealt with, you could then wipe out your own 2/2s to draw a bunch of cards. So yeah, very cool. Next up, though, Temp with Vengeance. Something that's kind of in between, where it's like, hey, you can make yourself tokens, but you can also make your opponent's tokens too, if they want them, I guess. Create X1 red element tokens with haste. Each opponent may create that many as well. If each opponent does, you get that many. So basically, if your opponents are tempted with this, they get tokens, but you also get tokens, and then you cast a single 1-mana spell and draw an absurd amount of cards. So they're probably not going to get tempted, but even if they're not, you're going to be like, okay, I can just swing with these tokens. Whichever one survive, I'll destroy with my own spell, and then draw a ton of cards as well. So yeah, there's a lot of different avenues that you can really take this commander with. Next up, an absolutely brutal card to use. And actually, I had humility for like half a second. And I was like, wait, that takes away the commander's ability too. Anyways, Overwhelming Splendor. Oh my gosh. This is a salt-inducing card. Enchant player, creature enchant player controls, lose all abilities, have base power of 1/1. Enchant player can activate abilities that aren't mana abilities or loyalty abilities. So, hey, all your creatures are tiny. Yes, they're 1/1s, and now all of a sudden, oh, and they also don't have any abilities, so your deck probably doesn't do much, because your commander doesn't do much. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I just cast this 1-mana Wrath that takes out all your creatures, and I draw that many cards. Thank you. Put some more creatures in play for me, please, so I can take them out as well. I appreciate that. So yeah, a brutally effective card. Next up, Mark of Asylum, very effective for you. Prevent all non-combat damage to be damaged to non-combat damage to be dealt to creatures you control. So again, if you're not going in the direction of like, I want to make a bunch of creatures and take my own creatures out to draw cards, this is a great card to be like, I'm going to protect my entire team, including my commander. If you're just going for your commander, I mean, Darksteel Plate. Cards like this can be amazing, obviously. Indestructible, equip creatures indestructible. This is hard to deal with, makes your commander hard to deal with. Therefore, you can just cast all your red damage-based board wipes that you want and take out all the things that you want, and your commander will be fine. Magebane Armor, +2/+4, loses flying. Also, prevail non-combat damage dealt to equip creature, so again, saves your commander from your damage. Mithril Coat, basically Darksteel Plate, instant speed, essentially for your commander. And then finally, Goblin Sharpshooter. Oh my goodness, this card's spicy. 1/1 does it untap during untap step. When it dies, untap it. Tap deals 1 damage to our creature or player. You can definitely go like Super Tim deck with this, because if you're doing Xaxes damage with, 1/1s in play, then you can just have repeatable sources of draw with them. But like Goblin Sharpshooter is the best out of all of them, because, hey, if a creature dies, this untaps. So if you're like, I take out a 1/1, I draw a card with my commander. I untap this. I take out another 1/1. I draw a command. Yeah, it's just a repeatable way to keep wiping out those tiny, tiny creatures. Obviously, you have ways to like double up damage, that kind of stuff. That can help even more with creatures that are higher. Still, there's a really like interesting like balance of this commander that I really do enjoy. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on these cards are. Let me know your thoughts are on this brand new commander, the Perfect Shot. I really like the design. Again, I like what they are doing with, Boros commanders these days, where they're like, we're just going to step outside the box and say, hey, card advantage, but specific in a different way that is unique. Unique. Unlike, again, Simic commanders, like one in a, recent episode, I think it was yesterday. They're like, lands and draw. Ha ha ha. Stop. Anyways, some really cool commanders and really cool cards coming out in this set as well. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on all this. And yeah, make sure you're staying tuned to this channel for more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming up. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.